This is American Real, where we aim to inspire, empower, and enlighten you through the stories of our guests. Here's your host, Roger Brooks.
Why do you think it's so hard for business owners, entrepreneurs to help themselves? Why is it hard to look at our own business and see our own differentiators?
I think when you're too close to it, you become blind to what's really happening for your clients, right? You get their perspective and then you add your own. So you feel like there is lots more going on that you can give an input to. With your own stuff, you just feel either you're thinking, okay, I know what's right. I know what's right. What I'm doing is right. So you're stubborn or you're confused. The other thing, and in my scenario, I think probably it was that I was a little bit confused as to what I was doing and who I was really helping. And clarifying that really helped me change everything, basically.
This is American Real. I am Roger Brooks. My guest today is Amber Hahn. You are the CEO of Amplifyology, where you help podcasters, authors, and speakers amplify their voice, defy obscurity, and ignite their brand. Amber, welcome to the show.
Hey, nice to be here. It's really a pleasure to be on this podcast with you, Roger.
Thank you. It's great to have you. And you are in the UK, is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Whereabouts are you located?
In London, in main city, London. Yeah.
And London has been shut down for quite a while.
Yes, for almost a year. So as of Monday next week, we are coming out of slowly coming out of the lockdown. So, the high streets and the shops will open up and the outdoor eating will open up. And then a month later, the indoor seating restaurants will open. And so we're hoping that, we're moving in the right direction.
I certainly hope so. I love that city. I had the opportunity to be there about 3 years ago when I launched my podcast. And I don't know if you're familiar, but there's a podcast called London Real.
Yes.
And that's where I did my schooling, and I had the opportunity to go there for graduation and interview Brian Rose, the founder of London Real. So London just has a special place in my heart, and it's just an amazing energy there. And what's it like to live there?
Well, I think, for me, London is home now because I've been here for, just over 20 years. More than I've been in any other country, let's put it this way. So that's why I feel London is home now. Also because I feel I see people of all cultures, and here it's a very cosmopolitan city. So you don't feel like you stand out. I just feel like everybody here lifts each other up. We're not out there to get each other. We understand our cultures are different, our religions are different, our values may be slightly different, but everybody still gets along and supports each other.
That's just such a wonderful feeling. It's actually ironic. I was on vacation last week with my family, and we went to Disney Epcot. And I don't know if you're familiar, but the theme of it is different cultures.
Oh, yes.
Countries. Yes. And you go from Ireland to London to Italy. And I was just thinking about that, how nice it is to be able to experience different foods, different cultures, and to be able to live in an environment like that. I could only imagine how wonderful that is. And there's some cities in North America too, definitely in the US, as well as Canada, like Toronto's another one of those cities where you just feel like there's people from all over the world, and it's a great feeling.
I think the biggest thing that I personally love about these big cosmopolitan cities is the food, because the variety of food is just amazing. It's just amazing that you can go out and eat a Korean food or Sri Lankan food, or just food from around the world. And being a foodie, that's very important to me.
Oh yes, no, me too. And what's nice about that too is it's authentic. It's typically people that come from those areas that they're entrepreneurs and they own their own restaurants, and you're able to taste that cuisine that comes from that area. So it's so wonderful. And London has great food. I could attest to that.
Yeah, well, when you come next time, you have to come stay with us. Bring your family along as well.
That would be wonderful. So great. Well, I would love to start out, Amber, by talking about, you just graduated from David Breyer's Brand Intervention Masterclass, 9 grueling weeks of defying gravity, as David likes to call it. Talk about that experience. Talk about when you joined, what you expected, and then the journey of those 9 weeks and how you felt at the end.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's been a wonderful experience. And the reason why, I mean, David and I spoke about it months before, and I guess he knew exactly at what point I was in my business. And I was basically, I'm a marketer at heart. So I have been doing this for a while. So I understood the basic concept of standing out in the crowd, right? You do it for clients, but when it comes to yourself or your business, you're kind of lost. I felt like I'm doing business, but I felt like I need to do more before something happens. You know how technology is moving so fast. And then for all we know, a year later, 2 years later, the business goes kaboom, because we just didn't take care of what was obviously coming. And I knew that to do that, I needed to do something different. I needed to stand out. I needed to say something different from what our competitors were saying and doing. And knowing David, I just knew that, he was the right person to go to help my business grow and take it to the next level. And that's the reason why I joined his masterclass. And I guess I went in with this mindset as well, that I want to nail it, right? I went in knowing that I can do this with the help of, others and David in the group. And I think that was the most important thing, because if you don't have that belief, which obviously David really helped instilled in us, right? And because initially I was questioning him months before when we had this conversation that, I don't think I can do this. I don't think it's for me to do my own branding. Somebody else should be doing it. Like he instilled in me that, no, your business very well inside out. You're the person who can do this. And I guess that's what really propelled me to sign up for the masterclass and say, okay, that's it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. David's there, he's the expert. So even if I get stuck, at least, he's there so that we could, rely on his experience. And also it's done in a group setting. So that's wonderful, because you get to see others on their journey as well, right? Everybody is on this journey and they all want to, do better and get somewhere. And it sort of creates that supportive environment where we help each other rise together, sort of, so that's what I loved about it. But for me, the key takeaway was actually what David talked about, because up until then, as a marketer in a marketing world, everybody talks about, unique selling proposition, USP. You have to have a unique. That's how you stand out. And what I realized with David is that that's just one of the ways you stand out. That's just one. So up until now, I was thinking, USP. What is my USP? What is my USP? And now I know, like David talks about, there are 23 different ways you can make your brand stand out. And that was like the aha moment for me. It's like, oh my God, this isn't just one way. I just don't have to nail this and think, oh my God, this is the biggest differentiator and now the competition is dead. There is a lot more to it. And as we know, the times that we live in, technology is moving so fast. You have to differentiate in so many different ways to be able to keep up and keep going forward. to make sure that your brand doesn't die like Kodak did, right? And the other companies did. So that's, for me, that was the aha moment.
So I'm curious, why do you think it's so hard for business owners, entrepreneurs to help themselves? Like, it's, as you were saying earlier, we could help our clients. Why is it harder to help? Why is it harder to look at our own business and see our own differentiators?
I think because I think and like David said that to me as well, that you're too close to it. I think when you're too close to it, it's when you sort of, you become blind, to what's really happening. Because for your clients, right, you get their perspective, their customers' perspective, and then you add your own. So you feel like there is lots more going on that you can give an input to. With your own stuff, you just feel either you're thinking, okay, I know what's right. What I'm doing is right. So you're stubborn. You're too stubborn to change. And that's where the problem lies. Or you think that, or you're confused. The other thing, and in my scenario, I think probably it was that I was a little bit confused as to what I was doing, and who I was really helping, and clarifying that really helped me change everything, basically.
So what was your business like before the masterclass, and how's the journey been to this new transformation? I know you changed your name and you've changed a lot of different things. What's the key difference? Because you're the same person, but what's changed in you that now has transformed your business?
I think that the product is the same, right? I'm the same. The face of the business is the same. The product is the same. It's just the way how I now communicate what we do or how we help others. That's what's changed. Speaking their language. And David emphasizes on that a lot during the masterclass, that we need to learn to speak their language. And in marketing, it's the same. It's all about the audience that we are trying to reach. They already have their own language. They already have their own terminology in the field that they're in. Engineers have their own, tech people have their own, marketers have their own, everybody has their own terminology. So they're already speaking that language. So if those are the people we're trying to reach, we have to speak in their language, and anything else sounds alien to them. And for me, I think that's what it was, to learn to articulate how I'm conveying my message, and not just through what I'm saying, but also through design, through being more creative in other ways, whether it's videos that we're doing or designs we are creating. In all ways, to be able to communicate how our audience wants to see us.
And is that part of the entire process, where once it clicks, now do you look at your content differently than you did before?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, now as we produce content, in the back of my mind, I always think about, okay, are we saying the right things, the language that audience speaks? Are we using the imagery that resonates with them? So yes, because that's another important thing, because a lot of people go into branding thinking it's about the new logo. We'll get a new logo, we'll get, I don't know, new color, brand palette, and that's branding. And the key here was actually to first be able to realize what differentiates us, and then we go and work on, okay, this is the type of designs we will create because that differentiates us. This is the type of videos we will create because that differentiates us. This is the type of colors we will use, and everything sort of gelled together after I realized that what a differentiator is. So yeah, working in the different direction than to what most people think branding is.
So take us into the course itself, as far as what was the week-to-week time investment like for you? Obviously, it's up to each individual to do kind of the work on your own. And then I know you meet on Saturdays for a couple of hours to go through things. But what type of commitment did you make week to week to invest into this program?
For myself, and it may not be for everybody, for me, it was because this was my main priority. I made it my main priority because we knew exactly when a masterclass was starting, right? So we knew the 8-week or 9-week period we need to be focusing on branding. So I made sure that my calendar is set in a way that I'm not focusing on other things as much as I will be on this, because and you don't have to do it that way. People can manage it in different ways. You can set aside a couple of hours a day and, a couple of hours on the Saturday calls. For me, I think it was more than that. It was a lot, maybe probably 4 or 5 hours during the weekdays, and then obviously a couple of hours call on Zoom call, only because I wanted to make sure that I want to nail this within that sort of 9-week period, because that was my focus, because I knew that the quicker I can do this, the quicker then I can work on our content that we are now going to produce as a result of it, and everything will move faster. But you can go at a slower pace as well if that suits you.
And Amber, have you seen any difference in your business itself? Are you attracting new clients? Have you seen any growth? I know it's only been a few short weeks since it's ended, but have you seen any changes yet?
I think for me, the most important, I guess the main change that I've seen is that I've had people come back to me, even though the new website is not even up yet, and so people cannot really see the new branding yet, but they can see how we're speaking to people now, and that's been the biggest change, because literally people have come back to me when I just say this is what we do, and they're like, oh my God, we know exactly what you do. That's in one phrase. That's just in one phrase. It's not even me explaining. So this is how we do it, and we will do this for you, and we will do that for you. It's just the name itself. They were like, Amber, that's exactly what you do. That's exactly what you do. So I guess that made me feel comfortable knowing that I think we are going in the right direction.
Wow, that's great. So for people who are on the fence thinking about a program like this, and they said, I don't know if I have the time. I don't know if now's the right time. I really can't make that type of investment. What advice would you give to them now that you've been through it?
I think it's not about the time. Time is just an excuse. Some people can do it in less time. Some people can do it in more time. It's about, what do you want to achieve? Where do you want to take your business? And if you are really serious about taking your business to the next level, you're really serious about differentiating from your competitors and standing out in your market, then this is the thing to do. If that's not your goal, then maybe this is not for you. But if that's your goal, then seriously, this is it.
That's great. What would you like to say to David Breyer now that you've been through?
I think I've said so many things to David, and my kids have too.
I saw that video. Priceless. Yeah. Just priceless.
Everybody loves David Breyer. Everybody knows David Breyer now in the house. It's like, the Uncle David is, it's like, it's like somebody who lives next door to us. But I mean, I'm utterly grateful to David for imparting his experience and knowledge to us in a way that he does. It's not just the masterclass, but everything he puts out there, his messages, his videos, everything resonates with us, with what, as a business owner, what I want to achieve, where I want to go. And he's so humble, this is, it's just like, you just feel like you're dealing with the person next door. It's so humbling to work with him, and that's what I loved about the whole experience. And so I would just like to say, thank you, David, for believing in me and making me do the work, because he really pushed. If I could have slacked But David made sure that, if you want to achieve this, then you got to put in the work and do it. So I'm very grateful for that support.
That's just awesome. Yeah, he is one of a kind. He is truly a special person, and I'm so honored to be able to work with him on this program and do a lot of the behind the scenes for him. But he's just a remarkable person. He has an amazing talent. Absolutely. And people like you and many, many others are changing their businesses because of, the principles that he puts in front of you. And as he, says best, it's not him, teaching you. It's just him bringing out more of you, which I've really never heard it put that way before. Yeah. And there's something special about that.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Okay, so let's talk about your business a little bit more in depth. I'd love to know how you help people amplify their voice and, as you say, defy obscurity. What does that mean?
Yeah, sure. I think the best way to look at it is, are you familiar with the phrase, "May the force be with you" from the movie Star Wars?
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Well, in Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi explains the Force to Luke Skywalker as an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us, penetrates us, and binds the galaxy together. Well, on social media, I see the Force is the relationships you build with your audience to foster trust, build engagement, and to amplify your ideas, your voice, and your message. And I believe currently the most effective and downright powerful way to build relationships online with your audience is by amplifying your voice, your ideas on the very platforms your audience seems to be most engaged on. And at Amplifyology, we help you do exactly that by creating multi-channel using a multi-channel marketing strategy, which is often referred to as content repurposing, so that you may amplify your voice by sharing your ideas on different channels, in different formats, and in different ways to reach new audiences.
So I think I'm a good example, right? I have a podcast. I am an author. But what would you say if, say I came to you as a potential client and I said, Amber, look, I'm kind of struggling of where I need to be. I have a pretty good presence on LinkedIn. I have a decent Facebook, audience, but I just don't, I can't tie it all together. It's too much work. How would you help me?
Yeah, sure. So, usually, I don't know who said this, but this is so true that the content you make so if you're talking about from an author's point of view, say somebody has published their nonfiction book, right? So they've written a great piece of content, like they've put their blood, sweat, and tears in producing it, right? But that content is not the thing. It's just the first version of that thing. So what content repurposing does is content repurposing is almost it's a multi-channel marketing strategy that puts your message, your ideas, your voice in every format on every platform out there, so that your potential customers who are looking for that on those platforms get to see it, right? If you're not present, or if your message is not present on those platforms where they're actually looking for it, then even though you may have published brilliant material in the form of book or maybe on your blog pages, people are not going to know about it. And if they don't know about it, then obviously then there's no business that's going to come from it. So I feel that I know that most people know that content is used online to create influence. But how I see it is that the purpose of repurposing content is to convert that influence into action. So once we've got all this content or even one form of content out there. Now the idea to reach the new audience and have them perform an action is by repurposing that original content in other formats of content.
But what exactly, like, where would you advise that, if, again, say I'm only on LinkedIn, Facebook right now, should I be doing more? Where should I be?
No. So, I mean, you don't need to be on all platforms. So firstly, wherever you feel comfortable to be on, and secondly, where you feel is your audience is, right? And you can choose 2 or 3 platforms. Like, for example, if you've chosen LinkedIn and Facebook, perfect. Those 2 platforms, you feel that that's where your audience is. Now, what we need to do is to share our ideas and messages in those platforms in the right formats and in different ways. So we audience these days, because they see so much content, so people are used to seeing so much content in social media, that we to get their attention, we need to, as David talks about, we need to produce content in different ways, show them, convey a message to them in different ways, not just one way. So if we are just writing, let's say, text posts, right, there will come a time when they'll just stop paying attention to it, because it's just same, or it becomes vanilla and boring, right? So the idea is that you can convey the same message. Your message doesn't change, right? You convey the same message in different ways, so that firstly, so that we're still able to grab their attention, and secondly, that people who prefer to absorb that information in a different way, like some people prefer to watch videos, some like to listen to audio, some may prefer to read long form blog content, so that we are able to provide them that content in all sort of formats, and by not doing that, you're really doing your business a disservice.
It's so interesting, and I've actually been testing a lot of this over the past couple of months, where I'll test just a very short post with maybe 2 lines of text. And then I'll do another post with longer text in an image. And then I'll do another one with a video. And it's just interesting to see the different response and reach that they get. And I can't seem to find like one outperforms the other always. It seems to be just timing and mixing it up, and not really having to settle on one particular thing, but rather what you're talking about, which is repurpose it in many different ways, where maybe you'll catch someone one day through an image, where you'll catch another person the next day with the text.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people don't realize that there's actually a science behind this madness. I'm not sure, and you probably have heard of this, the rule of 7, which was first defined by this marketing expert, I think Dr. Lant. So he talks about that the prospects need to come across your message at least 7 times before they really notice it and take action. So it's based on psychological phenomena, which was called the mere exposure effect, which states that people tend to develop a preference for things simply because they're familiar with them, right?
So interesting.
Yeah. And so in other words, your target prospects needs to see your content multiple times to become familiar with you, your brand, and your products. So repetition increases the chance that you get heard.
No, and the other thing that's so interesting about that is I, have firsthand experience with organizations who feel that they don't want to post too much. So they'll only want to post once a week or once a month. And it's like, no, you cannot do that. You have to be consistent, and I feel at least post once a day in order to get, people comfortable, in order for them to actually, they may miss it today, but see it tomorrow. So I agree with you that repetition, there is science behind that. And I'm so glad you talked about that, because it's actually reassuring to hear from a professional in your field that it's not just luck. It's something you really need to do in order to gain the momentum to be able to get people comfortable with your content. And actually, I've, just over, say, the last month or so, I've seen my posts jump to a new level. And I think it's because of that consistency. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, a lot of times people think that it's unnecessary. Why are we repeating the same stuff? But my only comeback is that there is a science behind it. It's psychologically proven that that's how, we see Coke ads everywhere. Coke doesn't need to advertise, right? They don't need to. Everybody knows Coke, right? So the only reason is that they want to repeat people, and that's how people become familiar. And not just us who know about it, the generation after us, right? Those who don't know Coke yet, a 5-year-old who then sees the ad and then sees it multiple times. Now he or she knows Coke. Yes. Doesn't matter if they're drinking it or not at that age, right? But they know what Coke is. So yeah, the science backs it up.
It's so interesting. It's just so interesting. And it makes so much sense when you think about it in that way. But I guess sometimes being in the moment, being vulnerable by putting yourself out there, or actually taking the time to do it. A lot of people just aren't willing to put in the work. And as you talked about, even with the course, if you want to do something well, you have to make that commitment.
Yeah. At the end of the day, everything's down to commitment. It's how much you want it, how much you want to change it. And I know from my personal experience and the clients that I speak to, or the prospects that I speak to, that there's always, if they're not already producing content, let's say if they have not written a book, so obviously they don't have that sort of big, huge content, or, they're always worrying about, but I don't have the time to record videos or record podcasts or record, or well, if you don't have the time to do that, then obviously maybe this isn't your priority. This isn't your focus to build your brand in this way, and where you want your voice to be amplified. So you've got to put in the work. There's no buts and ifs about it. I mean, I can't do that for you. I cannot magically record hours of videos for you and make you a superstar. But yeah, if you put in the work, there are ways that we can amplify it and make you go bigger.
Well, we have something in common in that we both like to help authors. I actually like to help authors get the book written. That's kind of the first step. And then it sounds like you like to help authors that have already written the book and take that content and repurpose that content. But what is it about a person's book? Like, how do you talk to them, an author, to say, look, you've already done the hard work, right? You have this tool. Now what? So if I'm a new author, how can you help me get that content out there? What does a session look like with you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, personally, I love working with authors is because I know they know exactly what they're talking about, because they've taken the time to figure out what they stand for, what is the message they're trying to convey to their audience. So they're very clear on who do they help and why do they help them. So, they've already done that work. They've already done the difficult bit of figuring that out and putting that message in the form of a book. Now, a lot of authors get stuck at, well, now I've written a book, but nobody's buying it, or I don't see, not many people still know about it. Well, and then I said to them, well, how are they going to know about it if you don't market it? And it's not about, I'm not talking about actual sales of the book, but the business that will come as a result of people knowing that you have authored a book on a specific subject. Because, Amazon sales, how many? You would have to sell 1 million books to be able to make, any decent amount of money. But it's not about the actual sales, but obviously it's about your credibility, right? To let people know that you are the authority in that specific niche. And the only way they will know about it is that you share your message that you have written about on social media. And you do that through speaking gigs as well. So even, let's say you have authored a book, right? And now you have got a speaking gig booked because of it, right? Just maybe one other company knows about it. So what we can do is take your book content and take your speaking content, the speaking event that you did, right? And now convert that into multiple, probably year-long content of social media pieces. So it could be small video clips, it could be stories that we share on social media, it could be short text posts, it could even be a slide share that we posted up. It could even be carousel posts that we create out of the content that you have written. Maybe one chapter that you wrote, we take that, convert it into carousel posts for LinkedIn, if you are present on LinkedIn, if that's your channel of communication, or even if it was you did a podcast interview and convert that into audiograms. So the idea is that to not let that content go to waste. You've already done the work. You've got the content there. Now let's take that content and create a content marketing machine around it. That's what I call it. It's a machine, an ecosystem. It's an ecosystem around that book that you have created that you now create to amplify your voice on social media. And by doing that, firstly, it's easier to do that once you've written the book because the content's already out there. Now it's just a matter of creating an ecosystem around it so that to let people know that this is what you stand for and this is who you can help. It's become so much easier because you don't have to think about, you're not starting from ground zero and saying, what am I going to say, right? It's not at all about that. You've already said what you wanted to say. Now we just take your content and convert it into various multimedia pieces to reach different types of audiences, like I said, on various different platforms, so that they get to hear about your book, your voice, your brand, and hopefully bring you in a new business.
That is awesome. And is this when you talk about utilizing the book to transform your business, is this what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because, the book, if you've written a book, everybody knows that's your pride and joy, right? You feel so proud of your work, and you should, because it's bloody hard work to have a book written, and to put all your thoughts and your ideas in one place. I've published one book, so I know it took me 4 years to write it and publish that book, but I know how hard it is. And so, I say to them, do not let it go to waste. Do not just, now that you've written a book and think that a miracle will happen, somehow a miracle will happen and you're just going to, your business is just going to fly, right? It's not going to happen that way. So you have to have a system of then now utilizing that book to take your business to the next level. And I believe that repurposing content helps them go from that base level to the next level.
Yeah. And I think you're exactly right. In working with authors myself, it seems that there's this myth out there for whatever reason with 95% of authors that they feel when they write the book and put it out there, okay, they're like just waiting for a miracle to happen when in fact, that's just the beginning.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Just the beginning. And it's hard to do. And I've written a few books myself, so I don't know really how to put it into words, but it's almost like, okay, I've accomplished that, writing the book. Now I need to get on to the next thing. But I think that's the mistake that a lot of authors make, is that they kind of just expect it to sell itself when, like music or anything, you have to constantly, like you said, Coca-Cola, they don't need to advertise, but they do because they want their brand to remain top of mind. So even more so with writing a book, because it's such a competitive space.
It's such a competitive space.
You have to, and I'll tell you, again, I'm sorry to keep going back to myself here. I'm just trying to relate some of our topics to some of the things I'm doing, but I have been, even in the comment section. So I'll write a little bit about a topic that's in my book. And sometimes the whole post or part of the post will be an actual excerpt from the book. But then in the comment section, I'll put, a link to purchase the book. I'll also put a link if they want to book a coaching call to write their own book. And I've been doing this consistently for the last couple of months. And it's amazing. Not that, I've received a ton of business off of it, but I could definitely see an increase of book sales as well as calls just by being consistent in that. And is that what you're helping your authors do as well?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously everybody comes with a different goal in mind, but a lot of them just come in because they want to book more clients, because they have now written this book, authored their books. They want to be seen as an expert in their niche. And so the missing piece for them is that, okay, now you have written a book, you are an expert at something. Now we have to let people know, hey, I can help you. And I am the right person to help you. So social media content helps them do that. And obviously, part of social media is that you engaging with them and you're gaining their trust. And the next step is that once you have their trust, is that you direct them somewhere else where you want them to go. The next step, right? Once they trust you, then you can ask them to take the next step. And the next step could be anything. The next step could be, check out my podcast. The next step could be, download this freebie. Next step could be book a call with me. It's different for everybody. But the idea with that is that first we want to build that trust with our audience and let them know who we help and how do we help. And then secondly, to get them to take the next step.
So for people that are listening to this and are on the fence about writing a book or becoming a speaker, whatever it may be, and knowing what you know about how you've helped so many authors and speakers, why should someone take that leap and make that commitment of time to write that book or put that speech together? What about that will help them become an authority or an expert in their field?
I think what it does is helps you clarify your message as well, helps you clarify who do you help and how do you help them, right? So it becomes very clear to you by writing a book, right? Because otherwise everything is sort of either in our head or on Evernote or whatever device you use, right? But putting your thoughts all together in a book really helps you clarify your message. And secondly, nobody can deny the credibility of when you become an author, what it brings to you. Nobody can deny that. So that's the second biggest thing that happens, that instantly people see you as a credible person on a particular subject that you have written about. So it sort of gives you instant authority. So in a way, I tell people that it becomes even easier to now amplify your voice, because if you have already authored a book, people already, or at least a small audience already sees you as an authority on a particular subject. Now we just need to amplify that voice and reach new audiences so that even more people now know about your credible work that you have done. So, nobody can deny what writing a book can do for you and your business.
Amber, how do people find their audience? The world is so big. We've been talking about this. It's so competitive out there. Will the people find you? Like, how does that work? Almost from a scientific standpoint, again, how are people attracted to specific types of content? And is it just like, throwing it against the wall and seeing what sticks, or do you have to be somewhat strategic about who you're going after or how you're going after them?
I think you have to know who you are helping. And if you've written a book, then you probably are very clear on it already, because you wrote a book to help somebody, right? So you already know who you're helping. But if you have not written a book, then obviously you first have to clarify who you are trying to help. And what are you helping them achieve? What are you helping them with? Obviously somebody comes to you because they're at point A and they want to get to point B, right? So you need to define what is the point A for them and what is the point B for them. So you have to know exactly who you are helping. You cannot help everybody. You cannot help the entire world. So we have to be realistic, right? And as they say, it's a very cliched phrase, riches in the niches, but it is true in a way that you have to know exactly who you are trying to help, because what it helps you does is then now write messages which speaks to them, right? We cannot write messages which speaks to everybody, right? Everybody has their own language, as we spoke about. Every tribe, if you're reaching CMOs have their own language, CFOs have their own language. So, right. So you cannot create a message that speaks to both. It won't, right? So you have to know who you are trying to reach, so that you can now create messages, whether be it on social media, whether it's on the blog page of your website, be it on newsletters that you are sending them out, or on sales emails, whatever you're doing. You have to be able to know who you're speaking to, so that you can speak their language and communicate to them in a way that makes sense to them.
Okay, so I'm going to throw out a tough one for you and see if you could answer this. What if the book is very generic and it's not narrow? There is no niche, or I'm not trying to reach a CMO. What if it's, just a very broad, generic book that I feel could help anyone?
Yeah.
Where do you go with an author like that?
So I would, this is where I would start. So if it's a very generic topic, maybe they wrote it in a way that they feel that it can reach a lot of people. The way I would, as a marketer, this is where my marketing head comes on. As a marketer, I would create messages. I would first find out how many people I can reach, what types of people I can reach. So for example, I know I've written a book that can help a lot of people, but within that lot of people, how can I subdivide it into different target markets? So let's say, I don't know, I wrote a book for dog training. It's general, right? And now there are different types of dogs, different types of owners. So I can now sub-niche it into, okay, this is for British Bulldogs trainer. This is for this types of poodles, whatever, different types. And now that I know I've created sub-markets that I want to reach, British Bulldog owners as well as I want to reach these, German Shepherds owners as well. Now we create messages that will speak to those people, right? So yes, we can still, it's not like, no, we can't market it to them, but we just have to have a strategy in place to know, okay, this is how we will reach many more people using the same content that we have created.
Wow. Well, I want to hire you. I mean, you've answered every question I had, and I think you're going to help a lot of people. So just a wonderful conversation. Tell us what's next. What's next for you and your brand? What could we expect? You mentioned earlier you have a new website coming out. Yeah. When's all this happening?
So within the next month, we will be launching the new website, as well as the new podcast, which is also called Amplifyology. The new podcast is launching, as well as I am moving more into digital courses arena and group coaching part as well. So that's the other part of the business that we now focusing a lot more on that. So hopefully people will see, the one-to-one side of business, as well as group coaching side of the business as well. So that's where we're heading, and that's the goal for 2021.
Fantastic. Amber, this has been a great conversation. I like to ask every guest before we end, this last question, and that is, at the end of the day, you still have a lot of work to do, but at the end of the day, what do you want your legacy to be? What type of mark are you trying to leave on this earth?
I think I would just like to leave, as a legacy, I would like to be remembered as somebody who touched their life, I touched your life in somewhat, if not mega positive way. If people can remember me that way, I think my job is done.
Wonderful. Amber Khan, welcome to the American Real family. Thank you so much for coming on. Congratulations on graduating David Breyer's Brand Intervention Masterclass. And I cannot wait to watch you in your career, because I know you're going to help so many people.
No, thank you for having me, Roger. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into American Real. Be sure to visit our website, americanreal.tv, or search for us on iTunes or YouTube for past episodes. While you're there, please rate us or leave us a review, as that helps others find our show. I am truly grateful and appreciate all of your support. If you'd like to be part of our inner circle or want one-on-one coaching, check out the American Real Learning Academy, where we have self-help groups and courses so you can build the best you. We also have a new Facebook group where you can connect with high achievers from around the world. If you want to go even further, maybe you're determined to write your own book or launch your own podcast, contact me today to see if we could help. You can reach me through Instagram or Facebook, or email me directly at roger@americanreal.tv. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.